looming as it's called. This is bringing something up around the curve, which I described with the lighthouse. So we have got experimental, verified evidence of this effect occurring that he was saying with his mountain could not occur. And I've got.
Or did the mountain grow? Or did the building grow? Did the building decide it would grow?
Yeah, good point. Perhaps it's on jacks. Yes.
Yeah, it's on stilts at night.
It's perhaps it bounces. It's on a bouncing.
You can't possibly tell in his photograph.
You know what? It's an explanation.
Why don't you let Wotan explain why he thinks this happened? Give him a minute to talk. Please explain why this happened.
So these are two photographs. Obviously, no one was there to witness it. Number two, you don't know his distance to these two objects. In one picture, he could be further back, and another one, he could be further forward, which has different atmospheric conditions.
So you're accusing him of lying. So you're accusing him of being dishonest. Is that right?
Of course, he's a liar. All the globes are liars.
It's easier to think that the building grew than it is
to think that anybody who's a ball earth is lying. Soundly, who has a hugely great reputation on the internet, who does his due diligence on all his videos. I've watched many of them, and I know he spends a lot of time on debunking flat Earth. All of a sudden, because he is showing you evidence that conflicts with your position, he has to be dishonest, right? There's no other way it could be, correct?
Why lie about the shape of the Earth, Wotan? Let's get it down to the. Let's get down to the.
Lied about his Lake Pontchartrain towers being bent, and then some other guy went there with his own camera and then showed it's totally flat across the whole freaking lake.
Not true.
Okay, ultimately, why lie about what shape the Earth is? Why make up that lie? Like, why is that a thing? Why would we have to cover up the fact that the Earth is a globe? What is ultimately the reason for why this lie is continuing?
Well, in your model, we are a speck of dust in an infinite universe. Basically, we are meaningless. We are pointless. There is no.
I don't think of any of those things are true. I'm not a dust, and I don't think
there's no reason for us to exist. We're an accident. We're an accident. We're a freak hap of chance.
I don't think that either.
So it's religion. Basically, you're saying it's religion.
But
you're saying religion drives your position.
Why does he think he gets to decide for me what I think? I don't think any of those things are true. So why does he keep attributing those things to me?
Well, that's
okay. Well, I'm kind of curious. What is the?
I tell you that what we are, right?
Well, I don't think respect dust. I don't think there's no perfect.
We should have started with this question. John, go ahead.
Yeah. What is the connection between being a globe and being meaningless? Like, there are plenty of Christians out there, plenty of religious people that believe in a higher power and think that we're here for a purpose and all that, and subscribe to, the fact that we're a spherical Earth. So I don't see the spherical Earth being the linchpin in being meaningless. So I'm wondering, to you, what is that connection there between spherical Earth and meaninglessness?
Religion. He's obviously clearly religious.
No, not religious.
I'm asking Wotan.
I'm not religious. Number one, I'm not religious at all. Never will be religious. I'll give you guys a little insight into me. So I find it absolutely, I'm on the total opposite fence of where I would be not even 3 or 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, I'm reading Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Don Dennett, all those guys. I love those guys. Carl Sagan, all of that. Have all their books. I'm not all of them, but I have most of their books, So for me to be arguing about this now, and I was such a dogmatic atheist back then. I was so into atheism. My whole life I never believed in God. I was actually more of an anti-theist. I was more of the Christopher Hitchens type atheist, where I absolutely was opposed to God. I absolutely knew that God did not exist. But now, once I seen the flaws with evolution, I started opening my mind a little bit, and then I started looking into other things, and then I came across flat Earth, and then all of these solid arguments for them. How is the atmosphere in a vacuum? How is the water around the shape of the Earth? You can't do an experiment to prove that. You can't do an experiment to prove vacuum existing in an atmosphere. These experiments are impossible because they don't exist, because they don't work, because you can't do it, because it's not a part of the physical universe. So what that means is there's a possibility that the Earth could be actually flat as we observe it, and it could be motionless as we observe it. If the Earth is flat and motionless as we observe it, that automatically is an absolute 100% proof that we are part of an intelligently designed system. You cannot explain it any other way.
Intelligently designed.
You advocate for intelligent design, and by the way, you said you're no longer an atheist, so I would assume you're a theist now?
No, not a theist.
Well,
I just believe that there's something that.
Wait. If you believe God doesn't exist, or you believe God exists, I mean,
well, theists usually lend the creator to an anthropomorphic type of being.
Sure.
I don't think.
But you believe there's intelligent.
Well, let's not muddy those waters, Steve. Let's go simple. We're actually getting somewhere. Let's skip over.
Well, I'm not sure we are. We've got off subject flat earth. We're now talking about religion. I mean, I think we ought to get off this subject. Actually, we're not talking about religion and intelligent design here. We were supposed to be talking about the flat earth. I'm happy to talk about evolution and intelligent design, but that is off topic.
We haven't been talking about the flat earth the entire time. Not
well,
one.
We've been talking about science. We've been talking about his rejection of science. Basically, he rejects science. He denies.
Now you know
science.
Where it's from. Now you know where that rejection.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's why I suggested. When he said it, I said this is because this is religion or some religious type in view. But nonetheless, we're arguing about the facts here, and he's trying to dispute whether or not this soundless thing here is a lie, basically, which is absolutely outrageous. He's denying the evidence of his eyes, basically. He's denying the evidence of science. And just because he doesn't understand that moving on a train means you will not feel forces. He doesn't understand that force is equal to mass times acceleration, it seems to me, because he's convinced that we're stationary. And then he doesn't seem to understand that you can be going along at constant velocity and not feeling anything.
Because the reason for that is what's important. The reason for that is what needs to be shown and what that can do to how you think in terms of
but we should be dealing with the
confronted with evidence.
We should be dealing with the arguments he proposes. I mean, we should be. Oh, that might be the reason for his doing, but nonetheless, he should be able to present arguments for the things he's claiming, and those are the things we're dealing with.
The reason why I'm denying it the reason why I deny it is because after coming across, flat Earth and 9/11 and evolution being complete garbage.
Can everybody stop screen sharing?
As usual, every conspiracy going.
Point of order. Can everybody stop screen sharing? We don't need to be screen sharing this anymore. Back to
what I tend to do now is just I try to have the most pragmatic view of the world that I possibly can, the most simplest view of the world that I possibly can. And if you're going to tell me that the Earth is spinning and I don't feel spinning, I don't believe you. Done. Occam's razor. I don't believe you.
That's not.
If you're going to tell me,
physics tells you shouldn't be able to feel it. Wotan, the physics and the maths say you shouldn't be able to feel it. Why don't you accept that? Why do you deny?
Power.
But Wotan, the physics says you should not be able to feel it. Why do you deny that?
Assumptions than the other. Therefore,
Wotan, the physics says you should not be able to feel it. Why do you deny that? Is it because you don't understand it?
It's more assumptions on top of the fact that it's spinning, and also that doesn't actually prove that the Earth is spinning. That's just an explanation. And if it is spinning, that I wouldn't feel it. That doesn't mean
sunsets.
Wotan, let's get to the nitty gritty here. What do you think in physics would allow you to feel something? I believe, right, that change of acceleration, you'll feel that. If you change your vector, meaning that you'll change your speed or the magnitude of your speed or your direction, that's a change in acceleration, you'll feel that.
Not change of acceleration, change of velocity.
Change of velocity, I'm sorry, you're right. Change of velocity. So your velocity is changing, right, which is going to result in actual feeling that you're going to notice. What is it that you are going to notice at a constant velocity? Without change of direction, without change of magnitude of speed.
I'm not denying the fact that you wouldn't feel you moving at a constant speed. I understand that part of it. Right. I completely understand it. But what that means, that doesn't mean that we are spinning just because
I didn't say that. But the Earth is spinning at a constant speed. You just said if it's constant, you wouldn't feel it.
That's right. You implied you'd be able to feel it. You implied you'd be able to feel it.
Right, but
you implied you'd be able to feel it.
Right, but again, like Occam's razor says, they both have explanatory power, but one has more assumptions than the other. So I just go with the other one and just say,
what are the assumptions?
Not spinning.
Yeah, what are the assumptions? I don't know what assumptions he's referring to.
What are the
spinning?
The assumption that we are spinning, but that
that's not an assumption. That's a conclusion. You keep using the word assumption wrong.
Yeah, what gets you to that point?
It is an assumption that you think.
I don't assume we're spinning.
We're not spinning.
I've never taken the assumption we're spinning.
Well, okay.
The conclusion from the science.
So Wotan, the Coriolis effect, which if you don't know, that's where that was something that Rumpus was talking about earlier. You go up high enough in like a building or a water tower or something like that, you drop a ball down. If you had it in like a vacuum or whatnot where you didn't have any other forces, the ball or whatever you dropped would not land directly beneath you, but yet it would shift due to the Coriolis effect. And so like that would be one experiment where we're not assuming that the Earth is spinning, but we can also show the effect of the Earth spinning. So again, like using like that as an experiment with no assumptions that the Earth is spinning, but we see that effect. How do you explain that effect?
How do you know that Coriolis effect exists? What experiment have you done to know that the Coriolis
just
effect
described
exists?
one. The one I described earlier, he repeated to you again. And
no,
also
but
you
not on the Earth, I'm saying.
How do you know reality is real? This is going to be...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what religion will do to you if you dive in.
The three
how you
experiments.
Go from Hitchens to this, how you go from Christopher Hitchens to this, that man will be rolling over his grave right now. I'll tell you
There are three quick experiments you can do, Wotan, to establish the Earth is spinning. One is Foucault's pendulum. Two is just simply dropping something from a reasonable height.
Is a mechanical device.
No, yes, it's fun.
Yes,
that's fine.
okay, so if it's a mechanical device, that means the whole thing is just complete full of shit garbage. It's a mechanical device.
So all mechanical devices are full of crap then, is that right?
Yeah, I don't see how
why should it be mechanical?
So we can't do experiments on mechanical devices.
Yeah.
So hold on. So basically, if any experiment involves a mechanical device, therefore it's crap. Is that right?
I never said that. No, I said
just one particular one.
Just one mechanical is crap.
I never said that.
You said the flaw. Wotan, you said the flaw in it was that it was a mechanical device. You suggested, therefore, that all things that have a mechanical device are flawed.
Why does the Foucault pendulum need to be a mechanical device if the Earth is spinning and it's causing it to move anyway? How come it needs to be operated by mechanics?
What do you mean by mechanical? I mean, the Foucault, the pendulum, I mean, it's
on its own, right? It
just a pendulum hung from like a ceiling or something.
Well, some of them do have
so why do you if you
actually
have a
PDF. Mechanical thing, isn't it, Wotan? So
I
what?
had a PDF of the how the Foucault pendulums are built, and it's just all these electrical, mechanical things.
Well, they have to be able to start it sometimes. There are
if it's just a string on a ceiling, if it's just a string on a ceiling that's showing that it's spinning, why do you need all these electronics and mechanics involved?
Wotan, you're not understanding here. There's different types of pendulums that can be used across the world. Some of them do have some electrical things used for it because it's mechanically started. But if you just take a string and you have it long enough, you could do it just with a freaking heavy weight and a string and a big ceiling.
This is what Foucault did. This is what Foucault did.
Yeah,
he did exactly that.
It's not mechanical. It doesn't need electronics. It doesn't need special effects.
Man, I had the fucking PDF and I deleted it like a moron.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think he did it back then?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question.
Yeah, back when 300 years ago.
Yeah. So what? Do you think the 1 + 1 stops being equal to 2 if it wears out after a couple hundred years?
Okay, you could believe things that hundreds of years ago, and then you use that same.
We verify them. They've been verified ever since. They've never been contradicted, Wotan. They've never been contradicted, Wotan. They've never been contradicted, only confirmed.
When you go to the Foucault's pendulum.
Wotan, I have a question.
Come on in.
What experiments have you done yourself that prove a flat Earth?
People like to guess the answer to this question.
And that's it.
Hey, I wasn't asking you. I was asking Wotan. What experiments have you done to prove a flat Earth?
I don't need an experiment to know it's flat. It's just flat because the horizon is flat.
Okay. So wait.
All right, thanks for joining us tonight. There you go. That's all you really need.
So you are making assumptions. You are making more assumptions than we are because we have experiments performed and you do not. Have you performed any of the experiments that we have talked about yourself to prove the Earth is a globe?
Well, I can name you plenty of experiments.
Have you performed any experiments that you are capable of performing on your own?
Honestly, I would need a lot of funding because these tests
sometimes it takes a woman's
No,
touch.
you don't.
It does.
We piddle around for 3 hours and Casey comes right into the heart of the problem.
Hold on, the answer you should be saying right now is no, I have not.
Well, I'm quite happy for him to quote experiments someone else has done. He doesn't have to do them himself. If he's got an experiment, someone else has done the claims.
You're making the claim we're on a spinning ball, so the burden of proof is on you.
Well, just like, for instance...
I don't think we should be arguing over who should be doing what experiment. We should be arguing over the fact that we have somebody here who says, show me an experiment, but I haven't done any.
And let's clarify this for the record here. When we claim that the Earth is rotating, the only thing we need to show you is that the science has shown that it's rotating. We don't have to. We have no other onus other than that. I can show you a textbook in something reputable that says the Earth is spinning. We're done at that point. We don't have to break down the math. That's been established science for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So we don't have to show you or any other flat earther that the Earth is spinning. In science, this is the paradigm that exists. The onus is on the person attacking the paradigm, not the people supporting the paradigm. So you have it backwards, and you're burden shifting on that.
Well, right, Steve, you're not wrong. The point is there are experiments that he can do himself that do not require a lot of funding. And if And if he would do those, perhaps he would see the things that we're talking about, because he clearly does not trust scientific experiment. I agree with you, Steve. You're completely right. But he can do these things on his own without funding, very simple things. And he has neglected to do those things, yet makes assertions that